Hello, and welcome to this week's podcast with Boardroom Buddies. And we're all business owners. So, have you considered when you are working maybe outside of your office or even in your office, the kind of threats that might be there for you from an IT perspective? And what you might do, and maybe there's some practical things that you can do to help you to overcome them or avoid them, of course. So this week's podcast is all about your IT and, more importantly, looking at your IT security. Now, for most of us who kind of run our businesses, we're on the internet and everything, we kind of know how to use it, but we don't know how it works. A bit like the car thing. We drive the car, but we don't know how the engine works. So this week, I'm delighted to be joined by Robin Tinsley of Tinsley Net. And I'm going to ask Robin about himself and about his business. And then we'll get into some nitty-gritty questions about what is hacking and what do we need to be aware of as business owners. And maybe that's different if you're working outside of your office in, I don't know, maybe a cafe restaurant type of situation, because often we do that, don't we? We might go to Costa and do some work on our laptops or phones or whatever. So we're going to kind of have a chat about that, and hopefully this will answer some of the questions you have about IT security and how you protect yourself. So Robin, welcome, and thank you for joining me on the Boardroom Buddies podcast.
Thank you, Jackie. Welcome to me.
So tell us about yourself then, Robin.
So I'm Robin. I run Tinsley Net IT, and I've been running this business since 2014, I believe. It's been a long time, that's for certain. I've been working in IT generally since 1995, which is even more scary. And I kind of fell into IT by when I was at school and left and went to college and university. I was aiming to become a graphic designer, artist, which is what I wanted to do. But at college, I was kind of left in charge of their IT network, literally because nobody else knew how to run a network or how the computers worked.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I started doing. And that progressed kind of through various jobs with the council in education, through some private businesses. I was unfortunately made redundant when a business that I was working for was taken over by another company, but that gave me the opportunity to start up on my own. Which I did, and kind of haven't looked back. So yeah, that's how I've got to where I am today.
Yeah.
So in 2019, I decided I needed a little bit of more of a challenge in my life because it obviously wasn't busy enough. So I enlisted with the RAF, and I'm also a cyber security specialist for them. So exciting times.
Yeah, and we can't ask you about that.
Some of it you can, some of it you can't.
So what do you do outside of work?
So outside of work,
with a RAF and working.
Yeah,
what else do you do?
It does feel like I'm trying to fill up all my hours in the week. Outside of work, so I'm married. I've got 2 children. Both of them have left home now, which is why I do have so much free time. I'm a keen runner. I help run a local running club. That's doing quite well at the moment. And I'm on the board of trustees with Access to Business, who won the Queen's Volunteer Award last year, and I'm also on the committee for Local Community Hub, which also won the award. So I'm a double award winner for that one.
Brilliant.
And besides, that kind of takes up all my time. So
yeah,
the rest of the time I spend reading and
and I know you through Access to Business because we're both on the board of trustees, and I know that you also do a lot of kind of help in the background with them and their IT stuff, because it's challenging in Wolverhampton.
Yeah, it is. And also the nature of Access to Business, obviously they're a charity sort of basis, so IT needs are very different to a traditional business, because there's a lot of changing focus on where information is coming from and going to, and also just the nature of the way that I have to store information. So it's always a little bit more challenging when you're working with a charity. And there's another charity that I work with helping their IT. and they have similar sort of issues to face regarding how information. It's usually about how information is stored and compliance with regulations like GDPR, because they're obviously quite a big impact on charities.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so if you're the owner of a micro business, you probably have set yourself up. You'll have linked your laptop or tablet and your phone to your broadband in the house.
Yeah,
job's a good one. I know from my own IT that like there's firewalls and security and stuff like that. So tell us about some of the basics that you need.
So working from home, micro businesses, if you're working out of your home premises, it is tempting just to plug it in, use the Wi-Fi router that is being provided by your internet service provider, your ISP. So that might be BT or Virgin. They'll provide you a router. You plug that in, turn the Wi-Fi on, and you go. And in fairness, nowadays the bigger companies like BT and Virgin and Sky, the routers that they send out do have a lot more security built into them, but they are all usually set at a default level. So there'll be things like lots of technical jargon coming up in. I'll try and explain it. So there'll be things like stateful packet inspection, which is that the router will just have a quick kind of look at the information as it goes through, make sure there's nothing too suspicious going on. And if there is something too suspicious, try and block it. But it is very lightweight. It is kind of, think of it rather than a guard standing at the door making sure whoever comes into the club is bona fide. It's more like an open door, really. It's just allowing anything to come in and out. So you do need to be aware that there's not too much security stopping things coming in, but in some ways that's good, because you do need stuff to come in. You need the internet to come in, you need your VoIP calls to come in, but you don't want to obviously allow malicious actors to come in, let's put it that way. So that's the first port. The second thing is the inside, the local area network, as we would call it, the LAN area of your home connection, is usually Wi-Fi. Not many people plug cables into the back of the Wi-Fi router now. And generally people will switch on. It'll be supplied with a password, which sometimes is just the MAC address, which is like a serial number of the Wi-Fi adapter. Or like a short random generated password. And they'll switch it on, and that'll stay forever because it's printed on the little card which comes with the router. And it's easier just to leave it as that, which is fine, but they're usually quite short strings of characters, so they're not too difficult for a computer to brute force guess those, which is a computer program that generally will just fire loads of guesses at the firewall, at the access point. It'll just try and guess the password, and there's only so many combinations it needs to go through before it gets the right one. So
you say a short code. What, when you're talking about characters, is that like 6 or 8 or whatever? Because I know that our code is something like 16 digits.
So once you get past sort of 6 digits, then it's starting to make it more time consuming for the computer, for a computer to try and guess what the password is. If it's the MAC address, so you'll know that because it'll just have the letters A to E will be in there, and numbers, and it's usually in 2 pairs they go in. If it's a MAC address, then that's a lot more easier to guess, because actually you can query what the MAC address is just by sending a request, a computerized request to the router, and it'll respond to tell you what the MAC address is, and then you can just try combinations of that. So generally it's a good idea to change the default passwords and make a note of what they are. And also throughout this and throughout the world, you'll hear people say passwords. Don't think of them as passwords, think of passphrases or passcodes, because it shouldn't be a word. If it's a word that appears in a dictionary, it's going to take less than a minute for a decent computer to break that.
Oh, that's scary, isn't it? Okay. So if someone is trying to get into your, I'll call it a system, but through your using your broadband into your laptop, what kind of risks have you got? that, so what kind of information is it going to be able to get?
It depends on what the type of attack coming in is. I mean, to be honest, home-based users, micro businesses, they're less likely to be attacked, because in order to do that, it needs to be targeted usually, which means somebody needs to be specifically picking on you, and that's not usually the case with micro businesses. They either need to know where you're connecting from or how you're connecting, or they need to be within range of your Wi-Fi in order to connect over the Wi-Fi.
Yes.
So generally those sort of attacks aren't going to happen if it's a micro business and the attack's coming in from the internet side of things. It's usually going to be because of malware that's been installed on a computer, and that's sent a command, that's sent an instruction back to a server somewhere else in the world and said, I've infected this computer, this is the connection you need to get to me, come and connect to me and access what you want. In which case, in those sort of situations, you've probably heard the term ransomware. Generally what will happen in those cases is that the malware that's already infected the computer will then start to encrypt data on that computer. It's a lot more sophisticated now in that it'll search for specific types of data, so documents, Excel sheets, PowerPoint, stuff like that, encrypt those so that the computer still works, but you can't get to any of your information, and then it'll hold you to ransom, and you have to pay a ransom in order to hopefully get the key back to decrypt those. So that's a sort of external access threat that a small business is likely to face. If it's somebody who's specifically picking on a business, who's specifically targeting a business or an individual, then generally they're going to know a little bit about that business or individual already. They'll have done a process to identify trends. It's called social engineering. So they'll have looked at the individuals and start to build up a picture of that person, and that allows them to sort of have a better guess at what passwords might be, what information might be available. And at the end of the day, the criminals are all after financial gain, and that's the information that they'll be after. So by that, I don't mean your banking details. By that, I mean any information that they can get from your computer that you need to pay a ransom to get back. So that's what they're
okay. Interesting. Yeah. So if you have information, documents that are quite critical, is it useful to store them on an external drive so that should you get that ransomware issue, presumably you can just delete and wipe that, but you've still got access somewhere else to your documents?
Yeah, so the sort of best workaround for a ransomware attack is having a reliable backup of your information. So even if you keep the information on an external hard drive on a USB device, as soon as you plug that in, then the ransomware is going to be sophisticated enough to realize that and then encrypt the information on that external device. So to get around it, you're going to need to be able to recover your information from a backup which is separate from your business setup, your home setup. So that's keeping information on a cloud which is password protected and secured in that way. The ransomware generally nowadays, like I was saying, is quite sophisticated. So what it'll do is infect a machine, but it'll work very hard not to let you know it's infected the machine until it's gone through the encryption process. So you might notice your machine's running a little bit slow, but you're not going to notice too many problems. Your screen's not going to start flashing or anything like that, because the whole idea of the ransomware is that it wants to work secretly in the background, encrypt the information, then let you know that it's done it, because by that point it's too late. Even if delete everything on your laptop, you've still lost that information because it's encrypted. So having a robust backup that you've actually tested works is by far the best sort of recovery procedure from a ransomware attack. Obviously not getting the ransomware attack in the first place is the best thing to do, but
so how can you do that? How do you kind of avoid that type of risk?
So ransomware, generally that will come through either malicious software, which can be, so most likely routes of infection there are going to be through emails, phishing emails, which are asking you to download a security update from Microsoft or something like that. The sort of emails that you get where they say, oh, this is Microsoft, we've noticed that your computer's got some errors, we need you to download this software to fix it. Or going on to websites that are either fake versions of genuine websites or just not very trustworthy websites. It's probably fair to say a fact of life that a lot of people tend to sometimes go on websites where it's not entirely legitimate information that's on there, and people do it. So that's where people are going to put software which is going to infect your machine. So yeah, it's a lot of that. It comes down to the end user being a little bit aware of the risks, and if they're exposing themselves to these risks, being very aware of that and monitoring the situation afterwards.
Yeah.
With the phishing emails, they're certainly by far more popular, and those will be things that'll try and scare you into acting quickly, so you don't have time to think and process the information. And a typical one would be something like an email from Amazon saying that your account has just been charged £20,000 or something ridiculous, and you've got to click here if this wasn't you. Well, Amazon don't do that. They won't send out those emails. It'll be done through your Amazon portal if they do. Likewise, you might get an email from Microsoft saying, we've just noticed that you've got a virus on your computer and you need to download this patch. Microsoft don't know who you are. They don't have any of your contact details, so you're not going to get an email from Microsoft saying that you've got a virus on your machine. There is quite a good built-in antivirus software on most Microsoft products, Windows Defender, and likewise with Apple products, and you can buy third-party ones to supplement them. So that's sort of like the best way to mitigate against those. A lot of the antivirus software nowadays does have software which is PUA, it's called, potentially unwanted applications, and that will look through the software that you've got installed and look for things that might be risk factors. And that's not necessarily looking for viruses as such. That's just looking for things that might open up your computer to allow somebody to upload something to it.
So when you're talking about these different things that protect you, different software and stuff like that, is that something you can go and buy, available on the internet, or do we? I know from my perspective, I'd have to have the IT person come and sort it out for me.
So I mean, certainly nowadays, if we look at Windows, which is most people will use a Windows computer for work, then that will come pre-installed. Part of the operating system is called Windows Defender, and that's quite a robust, quite a good antivirus software, but it is predominantly antivirus. It doesn't do anything else. It just protects against viruses, virus code. And the way it does that is it downloads regularly a list of known signatures, which is a thumbprint, if you like, of a virus, and it just looks for that running on your computer. So as soon as the virus starts up, it notices it running through the memory, it notices particular signature, and it'll identify it that way. And that's quite a good, robust antivirus program. You can buy third-party ones. So some of the more popular ones are things like Sophos and Kaspersky, which is slightly dubious at the moment, maybe because of its Russian connections, but it's still quite a well-respected piece of software in IT security. And things like that, those will help supplement, but they have added features in them, such as the potentially unwanted application, PUA software. They might have risk assessment built in. So this could be quite good for small businesses, micro businesses, because it'll look at information that you're sending out, even in emails. And if it sees something that it thinks is suspicious or risky, such as if you're sending a string of numbers that looks like a credit card number, it'll stop it and flag it up and just say, did you mean to send this information? You know,
Got
are you
you.
sure
Yeah.
you want to send this information?
Mm.
So things like that just add an extra level of
Yeah.
protection to the way that your business operates.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when you're, you know, when you're busy, if there's no one else in your business, you're all things. You're doing the marketing, you're
Yep.
doing the accounts, you're doing the delivery of whatever it is you set your business up for, you're doing your paperwork. There's probably other pulls on your time as well. So you get this kind of message through on LinkedIn or a phone call or something on your phone. And I don't think you have, I think you're so stretched that you don't have time to actually think about it. Oh, yeah, get rid of that, because you want to do something else.
Yeah, and that's kind of what a lot of these sort of attacks on smaller businesses are aiming for. So they're looking for people who are too busy with running the rest of their business to be able to sit down and think, is this genuine? Should I be doing this? So they're trying to put that pressure on. And that's one of the, for certainly like phishing emails, that's one of the key identifiers, is that it's pressuring you to do something quickly. And you might find that you get, you know, the same email come through over a 4-hour period. You might get it 5 or 6 times, and each time it's like, this is urgent, you need to do this. And it's almost, you get to the point of, right, I'll just do it just to get it out of the way and done and move on with running the rest of the business. That's what they're looking for. So
it must be real because they keep emailing me.
Yeah,
you know.
Exactly. Yeah. And anything that's putting that sort of pressure on you, kind of like with the rest of you running your business, you know, if you're being put under pressure to do something, the first thing you should be thinking of is, what's the benefit of the person who's put me under pressure to do this? What are they getting out of this? Why am I being put under the pressure to make this decision? But, you know, we all know we're all in the same situation. We all know that's not always the case. And sometimes you just want to click it and move on with your life and do something else. So having that fallback of a reliable backup plan that, you know, if everything goes wrong with your computer, if it gets completely infected by viruses, that you can scrub that, start again from scratch, and you're not going to lose any information, or not going to lose much information. That's kind of like your safety net. That's your fallback. But being aware of these attacks and aware of the pressure that you've been put under is the first line of defense.
Do you think most of these threats come through email?
Certainly for small businesses, yes, that's the biggest type of effect of infection. So a lot of phishing emails, they take on different forms. So some of them will be trying to install software on your machine, malicious software. Some of them will be trying to influence you to make some decision. There's been an increase, and it's still quite a popular trend at the moment, of emails which will try to intercept financial transactions. And this is especially targeted towards businesses who might make, you know, larger one-off financial transactions. What they'll do is they'll monitor, so they'll have access to your emails and then monitor and look for this trend. And they don't think there's a person there sitting there reading all your emails. It's all done by a computer. It'll just read through all your emails and it'll pick up on trends. And if on the 28th of every month you pay such and such a business, I know, £20,000, for example, then what they might do is send out an email on the 19th, pretending to be that business, and just say, look, we've changed bank. This is our new bank account details. Please make sure you update your records.
I've heard of that.
You've heard of it because it's quite a popular one and it works. And the problem there is that if you make that payment, then kind of like you've chosen to make that payment, if you know what I mean. So it's, the banks generally will be supportive, but they will say, you made this payment to somebody. It's, you know, it's very difficult to recover from those.
And so that's a problem, scam, isn't it?
Yeah. So the problem with that is it is a scam. There's very little sort of information you can go on, because if the perpetrator has got access to your emails or the third party that you're paying, if their emails, or sometimes both of them, then it's difficult to actually find out who the perpetrator was, other than you've got this bank account that you just sent some information, your money to. And it is quite a disruptive thing. So if you receive emails like that, anything that's unusual, never ever be afraid to contact the sender, don't do reply on your email, contact them by phone or by some other means that and just say, did you send this email? Is this genuine?
Yeah.
Again, I know it's easy to say that, and sometimes our lives are too busy to think that through, but it's just having little things like that in your head, and you just think, actually, I'll stop and I'll just phone them and just say, was this you that sent it? Just to double check.
Yeah. You can tell, can't you, from the URL sometimes it's not proper.
Yeah, so there are two different types here. So phishing emails of that type generally will spoof the sender's email address. So it'll look, for all intents and purposes, like it's come from the original person. And unless you've got software which is looking for that, which is like this Sophos and Kaspersky will help you out there, it's difficult to spot them. Sometimes another type of spoofing is where somebody will set up a domain which looks very similar to the organizer. So one of the popular ones not long ago was Amazon, which everyone knows as amazon.co.uk. So what they set up was a domain called amazon.delivery.co.uk, which, for just glancing at it, you might think, well, it's a genuine email address. It's got Amazon, it's got .co.uk. The fact that there's a .delivery in the middle of it won't stand out to most people, but that actually means it's a completely different website, completely different domain.
Yes.
And that's where people can fall foul. A lot of browsers now, you'll notice if you use Chrome or Edge or Thunder or whatever, any of the browsers will highlight in the address bar bits of the name, and they'll highlight the bits to show who owns that domain. So if you get an email that you do think is a little bit suspicious, just copy and paste it into a browser and it'll show you which is the genuine bit of the domain and which is a bit that doesn't mean anything really. So that's a spoofing. And also people might set up spoofing emails with domains which just look similar. So there might be an O instead of a 0 or a 1 instead of an L and things like that. And that's where you've just got to be a little bit more aware of how a domain should look, what a domain name should look like. And the other thing is, within the body of the email, if there are links, and links are usually highlighted in blue, sometimes they're underlined, before you click on a link, even if it says in the link http://tinslaynet.co.uk, just because it says that in the string of text doesn't necessarily mean that's where that link is going to. So just hover your mouse over that link and you'll see a little pop-up appear underneath the mouse, and that'll show you where it's actually going to. So if the two match, then it's fine. If the two don't match, then it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means be a bit suspicious. And the reason I say it doesn't mean it's wrong is because some companies will use a soft process called URL shortening. And that's where you get addresses like bit.ly / and then just some random letters. And that's a way of them getting a very long URL and making it very short, which is easy for people to remember and see. So that can confuse things a little bit. But again, there are ways you can check those shortened URLs out. There's software called, I think it's called BitExpand, and you type in the shortened address and it'll expand it for you and show you where it's actually going to. So you can check where those links are.
Yeah, okay. I know we're running out of time, but I did want to talk about fake news and videos and things like that. We mentioned it before when we were chatting, and I just think it's really important for people.
Yeah, it's something to be aware of, and it's certainly going to be an increasing threat because, most people have heard of AI now, artificial intelligence. It's probably the wrong term. It's actually just deep learning. Things like ChatGPT, which mimic the responses of actual people. And there's lots of quite freely accessible software now which can take a small amount of information, so video information, picture information, and generate quite a realistic looking avatar from that. So they can clone you and then have that clone speak with a voice which sounds very much like yours, and they can have it say whatever they want. A lot of people probably will have heard Martin Lewis from Money Saving Expert. He's had this happen to him a few times where he's apparently appeared in adverts which he never appeared in, saying things which he would never say. And this is something that you do need to be aware of. So anywhere where you're posting images of yourself and video content of yourself, then that information could be harvested. It's quite new technology, both for the perpetrators, the attackers, and for us. So, there's a lot of learning still going on, but it is something to be aware of that. And I suppose that the key thing here is when you're watching some information or some content, just be aware that it could be, to some level, deep faked. It could be a fake representation of this person. And I suppose content providers generally will have a certain style, and if they're suddenly going completely off piste and saying the opposite to what they've said all along, maybe you just need to think, is this genuine? And just do some due diligence on that and double check that it is actually coming from where they say it's coming from.
And you mentioned earlier on, when we were chatting before we started, about using watermarking on your video. Can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah, so that's just a way of sort of adding a little bit of protection to your online content. So you can buy software, or you might find that your web camera already contains a software to add a watermark, which is a small graphical sort of alteration of the image. Usually people will put their company logo or a little brand on, and that'll move around the screen, obscuring bits of the image. So behind me, I've got a virtual background here. It's kind of like that, but in front of me, but not blocking the whole screen. So it's only blocking little bits of information. And what that does is just make it a bit more difficult for a computer algorithm to look at that image and pick out what's me and what's the watermark. And it's trying to obfuscate some of the information. Obviously, that'll only be a protection for a certain length of time, because if you put a lot of information out, a lot of video information out, then eventually there will be enough for a computer algorithm to work out what's you and what's not you and pick out the information. But it's just one way of adding a little bit of complexity to what you post online, just to make it a bit harder for them to collect that information.
Yeah. That's been really interesting. Thank you. I was going to say to you, give us, half a dozen top tips, but you've kind of given us lots of tips as we've gone through.
Yeah, I mean, generally my go-to top tips are always backup. Make sure you have a backup, make sure it's robust, test it. Don't just rely on it to be there, and then when you come to need it, suddenly find it hasn't got half the information you need. Test it, check it regularly, and don't keep it on site with the rest of your stuff. Make sure it's somewhere safe off site. Partly for security reason, but if the reason why you need to go to that backup is because there's been a fire and you've physically lost your stuff, having a backup in a USB isn't going to protect you there. So have it somewhere safe off site. There's things like a password policy. We're all told all the time about having passwords which expire, change regularly. It's difficult, I know, to remember 400 different passwords. So use password lockers, things like KeyPass and OneClick and things like that will save passwords for you, and you don't have to remember the long, complex, random passwords.
Right.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And you talked about phrases, didn't you, rather than
so passphrases, I mean, typically if there's a password that you need to remember yourself, don't think of a password, think of a passphrase. So the typical go-to is 3 random words which are not connected. In between them, put a symbol. So maybe you might have, looking around me here, so you might have /TP-link /bulb. And that's 3 random words, which are very difficult for a computer. Individually, a computer will guess those straight away. The fact that you're connecting them together means it's, quite a lot more difficult for a computer to guess those.
Yeah.
And there are tools as well. It might be worth just mentioning that there are things like Have I Been Pwned, PWONED. There's a website where you can go, and on there they have a password checker, and you can type in your password and it'll tell you how many times that password has appeared in data breaches. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's your password that's been breached. Somebody else might be using the same password, but it has appeared in a data breach, and that'll just give you an indication of how secure your password is.
And what's that? Have I been
pwned?
PONED.
So if you do it, PWONED. If you do a Google search, that's the easiest way to find it. And on there, also on that website, if you type in your email address, it'll tell you if that email address has appeared in any data breaches as well. And you can actually register with them for free, and it'll alert you if your email address does appear in any data breaches.
I'm almost scared to think about doing that. For what I might find out.
Yeah, you're more than likely to appear in a data breach because big companies have been breached. I think people like British Airways, LinkedIn, Facebook, people like that who you're more than likely going to have an account with. Just because you're appearing in there doesn't mean somebody's been able to hack into your system. It just means at one point your email address was breached. It's kind of like a fact of life, but it's good to be aware of. It'll tell you when and where that breach happened, and it's good to be aware of that. So if your email was breached last week, then it'd probably be good practice to go and change your email account password just to be safe.
Okay. Well, in Boardroom Buddies, we often do a part of the kind of foundations, if you like, of Boardroom Buddies Mastermind is that we look at what risks your business has, what risk there might be, and obviously we talk about IT and all that kind of thing. But actually, that's a really good point to add into that, I think, so that you can monitor if there's a breach somewhere. That means I need to change some passwords.
Yeah, it's always a good idea. So typically, if there's a data breach which includes your password, which includes your email address, the password hopefully has been saved somewhere else on that breach system's network, so it's not in the same database, and also it's saved in an encrypted format, so even if they did get it, it would be very difficult for them to read what that password is, but it still means they've got your email address, so that's sort of like halfway there. So they know that email address is live, they know somebody's using it, and it can be used in attacks. So it is a good idea generally to change that password then.
Robin, that has been absolutely fascinating. I think we could go talking for hours about all of this. So thank you for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. It hasn't frightened you to death. It's given me a lot to think about. So thank you so much, Robin. That's been really useful. I think it will be helpful for listeners of the podcast to think about what they're doing in their businesses and how to kind of protect themselves a bit more. So if you've enjoyed the podcast, please like and subscribe so that you know when the next one's out, and look forward to the next podcast. Thank you for listening.